Hello everyone and welcome back for some more Drag Race gossip, secrets and drama. So I'm back for another recap of Roscoe's viewing party, which was for season 15 episode 4. And the guests were Loosey LaDuca from season 15, Crystal Methyd from season 12 and Daya Betty from season 14. Today we're going to be discussing Loosey LaDuca's controversial unaired jokes from Snatch Game, how much the queens really spend on Drag Race, and also why everyone hates the real friends of WeHo. All that and more coming up in today's video, so let's get started. Please note that because we're going to be talking about the outcome of certain episodes of Drag Race, there is a spoiler alert in place for this video. Please also note that I will not be using any actual clips from Roscoe's due to copyright reasons, but I will link to the viewing party in the description so you can watch the full version if you want to. So first of all, Loosey was asked about what had happened at the beginning of the episode, where Luxx Noir London said that she felt that she and Sasha were in the top 2 of the previous week's challenge, and she said that Loosey would have been 3rd. Loosey seemed to disagree with that and said, quote, "I was definitely in 2nd place, I don't give a F what Luxx says." But then Loosey laughed and said that she was only kidding. And Loosey added that neither she nor Luxx won that episode because Sasha had won, so it doesn't really matter who was 2nd and 3rd. And then Daya Betty asked if it had been between Luxx and Loosey who would have won. And Loosey said, quote, "Well, I think it might have been Dolly Parton." And she said it in the voice of Dolly Parton. This is because Loosey had played Dolly Parton in the previous week's challenge, which was about the queer afterlife, and Dolly was portrayed as God. They then started talking about Snatch Game, which was the challenge for this week, and one of the hosts, Cara Mel, said that Daya's impersonation of Ozzy Osbourne on the season 14 Snatch Game was decent. And Crystal added that when Daya said, quote, "Ozzy, Ozzy, Ozzy, oi, oi, oi," she thought that it was really funny but no one else did. And then Crystal was asked about her Snatch Game on season 12 as Poppy, and Crystal said that it was, quote, "one of the most painful things I've ever done." And Crystal also said that she was crying in RuPaul's arms in the workroom before Snatch Game, which was a reference to when RuPaul gave Crystal a hug during the walkthrough. Loosey was then asked if she hadn't played Joan Rivers, who else would she have done for Snatch Game? And Loosey said that one of her ideas was JonBenét Ramsey, but apparently the show told her that she couldn't do that. Just to explain in case you don't know, JonBenét Ramsey was an American girl who was a beauty pageant contestant, and she was found murdered at the age of 6 in 1996. And her death is still unsolved and remains a mystery to this day. Anyway, they then continued talking about Snatch Game, which was a split Snatch Game in 2 groups, which is the first time that that's ever happened on Drag Race. And Loosey was asked if the groups were able to watch each other's performances, but Loosey said no, and she even said that this was the first time that she had ever seen the other group's Snatch Game. And host Naysha Lopez then asked what Loosey's group was doing while the first group was filming Snatch Game, and Loosey said that they were getting ready and doing their makeup. And Crystal then said that Loosey's group must have had more time to get ready than the first group, but Loosey said that both groups had the exact same amount of time to get ready, implying as though production made sure that the second group didn't get any sort of advantage over the first group. Host Cara Mel then asked whether they did a walkthrough with RuPaul because it wasn't shown in the episode. And Loosey responded and said, quote, "In my opinion, yes, we did do a walkthrough," and everybody laughed. And just to explain, it became a bit of a running joke throughout the viewing party that the queens kept saying, "in my opinion," before anything else they said. And I assume that this is because the contract that they sign with the show, they aren't allowed to talk about production and give away any backstage information. So if the queens say, "in my opinion," it stops them from getting in trouble with the show, because then it becomes more about their own opinion rather than the show. So every time a queen said something and they said, "in my opinion," it got a laugh from the audience. Anyway, Cara Mel then made an interesting point that on Snatch Game, the queen who sits on the top row on the left side closest to RuPaul tends to do well on Snatch Game. And this is where Loosey was sitting on Snatch Game, and Loosey was asked if she was told to sit there or if she chose to sit there, and Loosey said, quote, "In my opinion, we were placed where we had to go." Naysha then talked about the runway for that week and then said in general that they had discussed before whether the runway really counts to the overall score for the episode or whether it's only the challenge that counts. But Naysha said that in a challenge like this where there are so many people who did poorly and are in the bottom, the runway does matter, and Crystal agreed. They then got to the part of the episode where Lucy won the episode, and host Batty Davis asked Lucy who made her runway outfit, and Lucy revealed that she made that particular outfit herself and she loves to sew. Lucy also revealed an unaired moment during the judges' critiques where apparently Michelle Visage said to Lucy, quote, "Thank you for bringing Joan Rivers back to life." And Lucy said that that comment meant a lot coming from Michelle, quote, "because that bee doesn't give you a compliment unless she means it." Naysha then asked Lucy if there were any jokes that she made as Joan Rivers during the Snatch Game that were not shown. And Lucy said there was one joke she wished had stayed in where she said that she was on a bad flight on the way there, and Lucy said, quote, "There was a child behind me kicking and screaming the whole time. All I kept thinking was, where is Casey Anthony when you need her?" And there was a big laugh and a few gasps from everyone at Roscoe's. Just to explain, Casey Anthony is an American woman who was accused of murdering her 2-year-old daughter Kaylee in 2008, and she lied many times during the trial but was eventually found not guilty, which caused public outroar at the time, and it was dubbed the social media trial of the century. Anyway, they then moved on to the lip sync that episode, which was between the twins Sugar and Spice, and during the lip sync they did a choreographed number and did the same routine. The hosts asked how the twins managed to come up with a synced choreographed routine and asked if Sugar and Spice shared a room, but Lucy confirmed that Sugar and Spice did not share a room. Naysha then said at the end of the episode that they were going to do the Q&A until Untucked came on, but Naysha said that they wouldn't be watching, quote, "that other show that will remain nameless." To explain, they are referring to a new show called The Real Friends of WeHo, which is a reality TV show on MTV that revolves around a group of gay male friends who live in West Hollywood, which is what WeHo stands for. And the cast includes Todrick Hall, who has previously been a guest judge and choreographer on Drag Race, and also Brad Goreski, who is a judge on Canada's Drag Race. And in case any of you are unaware, the show has received a lot of backlash ever since it was announced because it airs right after Drag Race, and many people have theorised that the reason Drag Race episodes were shortened from 1 hour to 40 minutes is to make room for the Real Friends of WeHo, and this has proved to be an unpopular decision. And the show has already received a lot of criticism and trolling online. For example, on Twitter, when the official Twitter account for the Real Friends of WeHo started tweeting the cast announcements, the comments were flooded with lots of very explicit and nasty adult material. I can't give the full details on this video, but the comments on the tweets were eventually disabled because the comments were being flooded with so much negativity and jokes about the show. And it's now become a bit of a joke in the Drag Race community that no one wants to watch the Real Friends of WeHo. Anyway, back to Roscoe's, and Naysha said that they would not be watching the Real Friends of WeHo because, quote, "we actually like to show people with talent." They then moved on to the audience Q&A, and someone asked Lucy whether she was annoyed that the storyline between Amethyst and Robin in their previous relationship kept getting so much airtime. And Lucy explained that she is from the same state as Amethyst and Robin, and she knows both of them, but she didn't know that they had ever been in a relationship before. But she said that it was, quote, "a cute storyline," and she joked and said that they could have shown more of her jokes as Joan Rivers rather than focusing on the storyline. There was then another question about what their favourite previous season is, and season 8 was mentioned, and the winner of that season was of course Bob the Drag Queen. And Batty said that she wanted to give a shout out to Bob because Bob was recently announced as joining Madonna's tour, which has become a massive tour and tickets are already sold out. And this is a really big deal for Bob and is a big move for Bob's career. Another audience member then asked how much the Queens had spent on Drag Race and if it was worth it. Crystal said that she spent just under $4,000, and she also said that Daya had done all of her hair for the show. Daya then said that Crystal paid for Daya's outfits for season 14, and Daya added that although Crystal paid the majority of it, Daya paid around $1,500 of her own money. Lucy then added that she spent a little over $20,000 for season 15, and she added that it was all her own money and she didn't borrow any of it. And Lucy then said that she made some of the runways herself, but not all of them, and she said that she did think that it was worth it. Naysha then brought up the fact that during one of the cast interviews for season 15, it was revealed that some of the contestants had brought a DVD player with some adult material on it, and the DVD got passed around the whole cast during filming. And Lucy confirmed that it was true and said that both Malaysia Babydoll Fox and Jax were the ones that had brought the adult material with them. Another audience member then asked Daya and Crystal which of the runways from their seasons they were the most proud of. And Daya said that she was most proud of her ribbon look in episode 1 because apparently there was supposed to be a different category for that week, but the show changed it right before they were about to leave to film. So Daya said that she and her partner had to scramble to create that outfit in time for filming. And Daya also said that she loved her metallic runway and revealed that the outfit was actually originally being made for a gig for Crystal, but then Daya asked if she could have it instead for Drag Race. Naysha then asked about the talent show on Drag Race and asked whether the talent shows are edited to make the contestants look worse than they are. Lucy said that they are edited and confirmed that she did laugh at Irene Dubois' talent show number, but it was edited out. The reason why Naysha probably asked about this is because Irene had been a guest at Roscoe's the week before and said that people were laughing at her talent show number where she made a glass of ice water, but it was edited out to make it look like nobody laughed even though that wasn't true. They then moved on to Untucked, and there was a moment where Sugar and Spice said that if one of them got eliminated, they would both leave the competition because either both of them are there or neither of them, and this shocked the rest of the cast. Lucy was then asked what she thought about this, and Lucy said that in that moment she believed that Sugar and Spice had already made up their mind and had discussed it beforehand. Naysha then suggested that perhaps Sugar and Spice were saying it deliberately to try and get production to keep both of them in the competition for fear that if one of them left they would both leave. And Lucy said that she hadn't thought about it like that. But then later in the episode, Sasha Colby talked to Sugar and Spice and convinced them that whoever wins the lip sync needs to stay in the competition. And Lucy said that Sasha is, quote, an angel on this planet. And Lucy went on to say that Sasha is so successful and could have been, quote, a rotten bee because she has the credentials, but she said that Sasha really isn't like that and is actually a really wonderful person. And finally, Lucy said that what you saw in Untucked and the emotions from Sugar and Spice was all real and it wasn't faked. And she also said that they had had a lot of cocktails that day too during Untucked, implying as though the alcohol may have had an effect on the situation. So there you go, there was a recap of the Roscoe's viewing party for season 15, episode 4. What did you think of the double snatch game? And will you be watching The Real Friends of WeHo? Let me know in the comments. Please make sure you like, comment and share this video as it really helps support my channel. And of course, please make sure you hit the subscribe button to stay up to date about new uploads. Thanks for watching and I hope you'll join me again in future videos. Thank you, bye!